everybody. Welcome to the Artist Talk, titled In the Room, which is part of the opening festivities for La Casa que nos inventamos, contemporary art from Guadalajara, which translates to the house that we invented, contemporary art from Guadalajara. My name is Marie Casimir, and I am the curator of public programs and performances at Oklahoma Contemporary. I'm pleased to sit here with guest curator Viviana Kuri, who is the director and chief curator of the Museo de Arte de Zapopan in Guadalajara. Viviana has done a spectacular job of curating a very thoughtful and dynamic exhibition that hopefully you've been able to have some time and spend time with the art today. This afternoon we are joined by many of the artists in the exhibition. We have 16 artists from Guadalajara who traveled here and from various different places to be here with us for the opening. And they are here and they will engage in a fast-paced presentation of the work similar to Pechacucha style, with each having a few minutes to share about their work. We will have short time for Q&As with the audience after. This talk is divided into 3 panels. This is the first panel, and we'll have a second and a third, and just short little 5-minute breaks for stretching or bathroom breaks. And then we'll keep it moving. The idea is to keep it fast, keep it quick, keep it lively. So we'll do that. Before we proceed, I'd like to take time to thank our wonderful supporters and sponsors for this exhibition. We had many people who put together to help make this successful. This exhibition is supported by Richard and Glenna Tannenbaum, Ed and Jody Sanchez, Elizabeth Firestone Grand Foundation, Skip and Joan Cunningham, G. David Neff and Susan Peck, the Colcord Hotel, CNS Productions, George Records, the E.L. and Thelma Gaylord Foundation, the Chickasaw Nation, the Kennedy Family, Annie Bohannon, Velocigo, Ron Settles, and finally Ann Sherman Photography. Thank you so much to our sponsors for helping to make this happen. And I will pass it off to Viviana. You can start us off.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you very much. Well, each artist is going to speak a few minutes about their work here at the exhibition, and maybe about the process, and then the mic would be passed to take some questions. And we are going to start with Claudia Cisneros.
Hi. I'm Claudia. I'm from Guadalajara. I studied visual arts, but then I started making more actions or performance. And in the first floor, I have my pieces there. It's an installation that it's called Economy of Language. And this installation works a little bit with elements that you could find in the public sphere, tiles, a specific type of tiles that are named after the city, so they call Guadalajara tiles. And you could see those tiles in the sidewalks in Guadalajara, and especially downtown. So every time you see these in other places, it's just you feel like it's very connected to the city. And also newspapers that it has this it's like an official way of sharing information, and it's a platform where a lot of information is circling. So I wanted to work with that, but from a female perspective. So the installation I think is very structuralist, very inspired in the shapes of language. And then the performance, it's called Red Cross, and it's 2 female bodies that enter this sort of stage that it's very modular, square, and then it starts moving the floor, moving the elements. So it becomes like a different structure, and it's all in blue light, which for me, it was important to create an atmosphere on its own. Other work that I have with newspaper, and I like this quality of newspaper because it makes every object that I made with it to look like a maquette, or to look like like almost like the fake of that, or like the imitation of that, and I like to do things that are made of information. So newspaper has been very, like, it's intriguing me a lot, and I showed that installation and did a performance in 2020 in Guadalajara, and now we have like a second version of it. It's adapt on this context. So I work with Maggie Boyet, which is a dancer from here, and we brought the floors from Guadalajara to here, so I like to think that it's like a small embassy or something, like you're stepping literally on Mexican ground, and we are moving these tiles without touching the floor. So it has a lot of layers. It is a little short time to speak about it, but that's the general idea of the piece.
Okay, thank you, Claudia, and we're going to pass the mic to Peach.
Hi. So I'm Peach. I'm also from Guadalajara, and I came here with a project called Picnics. My work is motivated by like keeping alive everything that keeps us alive, and the way in which we form like our relationship with everything that's surrounding us, like our ecosystems. So I've been working for a long time with like different mediums, but mostly like what's like in every like work I make is like patchwork or different versions of patchwork, like patch writing, and some like type of that, like mixed. So for Picnics, I basically made this quilt where I invite people to come and join me on a picnic and share about mental health issues, well-being, care. And this piece it has like two sides. One side is very focused on like the shadow parts of ourselves, and the other, like there's a moment where we flip the quilt and we talk about like the light part of ourselves and how we, like what we do to keep ourselves like surviving and moving and like handling life. So I really like to work like with participatory projects and like with people, and to write texts after that, like from that, like as a collage piece. So I'm gonna stay here and embroider fragments of what we shared at the picnic today. Like this morning we had the picnic, and those are gonna be added to the quilt, and it's gonna be like hanging, and it's gonna be like flipping sides through the whole like time of the exhibition. What I like about this is that it's not gonna be like a linear calendar. Like it's gonna be very randomly changing, which I feel like is the way that I relate, and other people I think relate to like mental health or like being in a like path of healing. So yeah, that's this project.
Thank you, Peach. Isa Carrillo's turn.
Hi, I'm Isa, that's my full name. And my work normally has to do with reading the people. I don't know why, but that's my obsession. And the work that I'm presenting here had to do with a project I made in 2015, which is a little old for me, but had to do. It's okay, don't worry, please. It's very okay. It was the introduction. With a very special figure from Guadalajara, which is Clemente Orozco, a great muralist. But my project had to do with something that was not developed yet, until I can see. It was around his psyche. So I made a homage to his left hand, which he lost when he was 20 years. And I could read the psyche of him, I mean his personality, through his natal chart, through his right hand's photographies, and also through his graphology, which is the study of the writing. you can learn too much. Even if you can see a person, you don't have to be near to see what's the main thing there. So I think that's why my art is not linked to art fully. It's not about tautology, all the contrary. It's about human and how we share the elements that we have, but in different codification. So yes, there is in each one of us also. And so well, I think that's amazing. And well, this piece that is downstairs is called Constellation. It's a fiction of a constellation of the day that he lost his hand. He was a pyromaniac, and on the Independence Day, he was doing fireworks, and it was a big accident, explosion, and because it was Independence Day, there were not doctors, so it was very bad healed. This got infected, and then they had to cut his hand. And he had the intention to be an architect, but because he only had one hand, he thought that he maybe should conform with be an artist. So he was an artist, and but because of this accident. And then I think it's renowned like one of the best muralists, Mexican muralists. So that's why it's a big shadow. It is a big shadow in the arts, I think, in Guadalajara. And well, this is I use here to make the drawings of the stars. There was a program called Stellarium, very interesting. You can put the date of any time and the place in any place of the world. And then you can see how was the sky looking like. So I choose the day where he had this accident, and this was how the stars were looking like this day of the accident. And then I draw this kind of constellation. You cannot do that, of course. This is a fiction. There is a specific institute that only allows to have the ones that we have, which are around 90, I think, and that's it. Constellations. Mm-hmm. But well, that's the main idea in 5 minutes or less.
And now it's Florencia Guillén's turn.
Hi, I don't think I can hear. Well, hi, yeah. My name is Florencia. I work with video mainly and textiles and drawings. My work is relational and community informed. And the piece I'm showing here is called El Agua Luisa en Cufal, and talks about an area of Guadalajara that was developed in the 60s, where there's a compound formed by a theater, a museum of crafts, a library, big squares, a park, a concert hall that is set outside, the NHS, the train station, the bus station. It was viewed as with this modern ideal of progress in which everything could be in the same area, and it was crossed by a huge avenue. And what happened with that is that also the water that was visible in the city was hidden into this like tubes underneath. The springs and the rivers were hidden. And the video talks about what we cannot see, like what it's invisible, and that's why the sound is it's the water that we cannot see today. And for that piece, I worked with an artist that used to live outside the park Agua Azul. She draws all the time, and she draws a lot, but she had never been able to be inside the theater or the House of Crafts, like the Museum of Crafts, where there are other artists from the 60s murals, Montenegro, Flores, and Servín. And what I did is work with her so that she could translate to a contemporary state and to talk about the transformation of the city. And she translated like those murals into her own work, and I filmed her, and that's the piece that I'm showing today.
I think it's important to say that she has a street situation, or had. I mean, she was living in the streets, and also her auditive.
She is a trans woman that was living in the streets. She was not able to get other jobs, So she was living outside the park. She also she's deaf, so that's why she draws. And we started in a friendship actually at that time. And today she's not living in the street anymore. I don't know if it's because of that, but yeah, that area today is very empty. It's people that crosses, like migrants, because the train station is very near. So there's lots of migrants that hang out in the park or in the plaza. And also homeless people started living there because it's very wide. So when I started doing that work, I wanted to see who was occupying that space in Guadalajara, and so that's why I worked with Luisa.
Thank you very much. Hiram's turn. Hiram Constantino.
Hello. I feel a bit embarrassing of my English after her song, but I'm not adding the English. My work here is a pair of drawings. When my father was fired in the '94 crisis in Mexico, I started a collection of comics, and this collection is grow up with me. And these are like a thing in, they call Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's a very popular comic of DC. But these drawings have the drawings of manga, anime, TV, and movies I grew up. And they talk about the uncertainty of our future. And that's what I feel when my father was fired in the '94, and then in other crisis in Mexico and the world. This uncertainty that doesn't have an end make me do this vase of flowers that is shown in the exhibition as well. My mom, when she signs with a flower, because my last name is Flores. So she has a depression issue. So she is like a pillar in the family, but is slow in, like, the disease is taken out of her character. But I think that we can make these possibilities of the better future with what I make. She has this perseverance of his family, and out of this bleak future, we can make something out of it, and something blooms of it. And the basil with the flowers and the water lilies with the marbles is like something for me, like it's a showing of her, of my family, my personal history. But what I like about the arts, to create something new that there is no around, and you can see it. So the drawings has this sarcastic phrase, because I like to think that is something we can feel comfortable around. And I don't know, I think that the water lilies are like drawing for me. Even in ceramics, for me, as the making and there is no basil, is important to me to feel like I am doing it. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Hiram. There are other pieces at the gallery that are not shown here. We do not have the image here, but there are the water lilies he's talking about with the on top of the marble. So when you go down the gallery, you will see them. Well, thank you so much. Marie is going to ask you a question, and then we're going to open the mic. Yes? Okay.
Sure, we'll open it up. Yeah, I have maybe a couple of quick questions. one of the things that stands out for me is that people are so important, even though these are all objects, like people are so important to the art that you're making. Whether it be like familial interactions or strangers that you don't know, but seem to be at the center. But they're also objects. I want to ask first, like Peach and Claudia, you have these very like object-based pieces, and then you have like performances that happen with the pieces, and then right here in our installation, the pieces then exist without the people. My question for you is like, what is the relationship between the people and the objects when the people are no longer there? Like when the performance, when the thing has disappeared, like how do you think about that? Do you think about the relationship between the people and the thing?
Yes, I actually think about that a lot. Like not just for picnics, but like in other projects. Like I have this research about like showers, and I went and visited like many showers and followed like certain like instructions in each one of them. It was very important for me that once it is like in the museum or the gallery or wherever it's gonna be like in the exhibition, like for it to continue like its nature, like purpose, or you know, like the center of the thing. Like I don't see the object just like separated from the happening or the action or the performance, or yeah, like those interactions with people. Like I feel like it's like the core of what I do. So I focus a lot on for those objects, like when they're gonna be like in a gallery, for them to keep like interacting with people like in the most direct way possible. So in this case, there's like the quilt couldn't be like on the floor, which was the initial like purpose, because of the space, and it's very, very big. So it's hanging on the wall, which I think is like perfect. And then next to it, there's a notebook, and people can write, like answer 2 questions that were like the main questions at the picnics. So those notebooks are gonna be there like for the whole like exhibition. And then there's like this box with prompts that people can take to create their own picnic and like go and have their own experience with a stranger or someone close to them. So I really like to think of like this project like it's just continuing, like it's in process. It's not just something that already happened, or it's not just the object. It's something that's like building itself through like time.
Yeah, I think for me, like I was doing objects before, painting, drawing, some sculpture, but then something was missing, so that's why I started working with the body. And now I think I cannot have any type of experience, like object experience, without passing through that filter, which is the human body. And I think the installation, like I like to think that it contains all this movement that we're doing, and also the flowers, you can clearly see that it's handmade, that it's a craft. So I think all these objects are embedded with this energy. And yeah, when I work with objects, I always think like, how is this in relationship with my body or the body of performers? And yeah, I think for performance, it's mostly associated with dance or theater, but I like to do actions with objects, or with a very strong presence of visual language, but that you could sense it also, like this is an action. So I think it has took me years to develop that way of doing performance, that it's not coming for theater, it's coming from visual arts, but that it's images or installations, but that you could feel that bodies were there, or that it was important for some bodies to be part of that, and yeah.
I think we're doing okay on time. I'm just going to ask one more quick question for the rest of you. And also considering about people, because like I said, I notice it's really important to your practices, has like your relationship, say you're working on a piece, any of the pieces that you have here, and there's a person who's part of the subject matter or people thinking about, has that changed the direction of your work? Have you had to like stop and reframe and change what you were doing, and like how have you approached that? For any, for Florencia, anybody
Yes.
who wants to answer.
Yes, for example, for that piece, what I had envisioned to do was to work only with sound. And my work is always narrative, most of the time is narrative. And it has also a gender perspective. But as I was doing the field work and working with a collective that works with homeless people, is that way I met Luisa, and my work switched completely of what I had thought I was going to do. For me, it's a process, and sometimes I refrain myself from working with someone. For example, one day in another piece from 2008, I went to Mongolia, and I was working with a nomad, and that didn't work at all. The relationship didn't build. So in that way, I started drawing, because my my video was like completely fake, and it had no truth for me. So I switched completely to make the drawings of that encounter with sound without having the relationship present.
Okay, I think do you want anybody else want to answer? You good? Okay. We're going to open it up to questions for the audience for this panel. I'm going to leave the stage because there are a lot of us, and so there are only so many mics to go around, but I will come with the mic if you have a question.
I know a lot of you work in varying mediums, like Peach and Claudia, you have your performance, but then you have your physical piece as well. And Hiram, you have your drawings and you have your ceramics. And Isa, you have your palm readings, but you also have your triptych sitting on the wall. What's the process of choosing which medium belongs to which project? Does the idea come first and then you choose the medium? Or do you start with the medium and the idea blooms from there? And it's open to any of you.
For me, always is the idea first. It's like impression, and then it can last years to become real or not. I think to take in the dense matter the thing, to crystallize or materialize the idea, is a slower process, but it's always there, like in an archive, invisible archive. To be honest, I don't think I will have enough time to materialize all what is in my archives.
I think sometimes you just obsess with a material that it's very strange. Like I don't think, artists, I don't think we can explain that very well. But sometimes you just feel very, very attracted to some material, like newspaper, or like, it could be anything, and you don't know why, but you just start, just like exploring that and making tests and just trying to see what it is that it's like caught your attention. And I think that's the material part, but also it's always like you have like a sense of an idea or something that you're starting to visualize, and then you see which materials could help you to build that. Or it could be this obsession with something very particular, and then on the process you start, I think, realizing like what is this interest. Like that's for me.
Another question from the audience? And if we don't have another question, then we will wrap up this panel. We will say thank you to all these artists.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.